Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy to See Me, the podcast that puts the spotlight on the overlooked and underestimated. I'm Erika Casupanan, and this week I am speaking to pro runner Aleeya Hutchins. But first, I love to start each episode talking about something I was happy to see this week. And this week, I have just finished taking a new comedy class. So the class I took was like a combination of clown and adult play. And what I mean by that is it basically felt like every week for a few hours, a bunch of adults would get together and play. So what does that look like? Exactly how it sounds. We were doing things like comedy exercises, improv exercises. We were acting out emotions with just our bodies. And we were acting out scenes with no rehearsal, with a partner, based on music that the instructor would play right before we went on stage. We even played things like schoolyard games like Red Rover, but not actually the fully, hard Red Rover because I know that it's hard. But we were just having so much fun doing so many things that were silly and no stakes. I took the class because I wanted to be able to, one, continue with my comedy training. If people have been following me for a while, they know that I've taken many comedy classes. So I thought this was going to be a fun one to try. And it would help with my performance skills and would help me to be a better host. But I also wanted to do something that was completely no stakes. And going to this class was just absolutely silly. The things we do were just outrageous and funny. And I'm so grateful to everybody in the class who made it a safe environment. And as someone who is a self-described former goals girl, it was so nice to go and do something where it didn't matter how bad I was or how silly I looked or whether or not people laughed. It was just something that I could do purely for play and purely for fun. So what I was happy to see this week was relieving myself of the pressure to be achieving and doing things that were productive and giving myself the opportunity to play. And we should be playing more. How often are adults playing these days? Anyhow, this goes perfectly with this week's guest, Aleeya Hutchins. Aleeya is a pro runner and an aspiring Olympian. She was a D1 athlete who got a scholarship to go to school in the US, but she recently decided to leave her school's track team. She decided to move back to Canada and pursue private training, and she's taken some time off of competition to focus on her mental health and her other passions. In this interview, we are talking about getting through major life changes, and I will say, throughout this conversation, I was in awe of Aleeya. At just 22 years old, she has so much wisdom around how she can get through big life changes like this. So she is talking about things like building up her sense of identity and her sense of self-worth after leaving her track team, which was really the center of her world for so long, and figuring out who she is without those things. Plus, we talk about her relationship with running now, what it's like starting a new sport like tennis and sharing that on social media, and what it's like to relieve herself of so much pressure and to move through life with positivity and gratitude and a sense of fun. I honestly think that we are talking to a rising star today. Once you hear her talk, I think you'll be on the same page as me. And I told her after the interview, I was like, Aleeya, you're going to go to the Olympics and then you're going to be a star. Just wait. So I think you're going to get so much out of this interview. I know that I did. I wish that I had this wisdom back when I was her age. So let's just get into it. Here is my interview with Aleeya Hutchins. I hope you enjoy it. I have been creeping you online. I don't know if people still say that, but you are just so sweet. You just bring such a positive energy into the world. And I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be talking to you too. And I creeped you too because I was like, you can do 3 pull-ups now.
Wait a second. Did an aspiring Olympian just compliment my pull-ups? And can I call you an aspiring Olympian?
You actually can. I don't speak about it too much in the sense, but it's definitely, something that I aspire to be. And you can.
Well, I believe in you. I totally see that in the cards for you. And as I was researching you, you have done so much, and you've also taken some brave steps to really carve out your own path. So I'm very excited to get into all of that with you today.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited.
Most folks know you as a pro runner and as a track athlete. So why don't we start there? How did you get into running track?
Okay, so I always tell this story, and I started when I was 7 because I was bad at every other sport in elementary school. We were 7, so it's like, how good could you really be? But I mean, the coordination wasn't there. I remember when track and field day came up at school, one of my teachers was like, I know you might be nervous, but you should still try. Cause I was like, I don't want to try even. And they were like, well, if you try the longer distance events, like the 815, the other kids won't want to, you'll have a shot. And I did. And the 800 was the first event I ever won, and it's been like my baby ever since. So that's how I got into track.
So at that young age, you do your 800 meters. When did you realize that this was going to be something that opened up more doors for you? When did you realize this could be something with scholarships, the potential for Olympics? And were those always your goals, or was there something else you wanted out of track?
Yeah, so I realized that not until I was maybe halfway through high school, because my parents, coaches, and people around me, they definitely saw my potential a lot earlier than I could when I joined a proper team in the 8th grade. But I didn't take it all that seriously till schools started reaching out to me from the States. My first D1 school reached out in, I think it was like end of grade 11. And I was like, this is a thing. And then I started looking into that with my parents and with my coach at the time. And it wasn't always the goal. I just like to run around in the summers. Sometimes when I was younger, I would join the house league soccer team just to run around. I wasn't good at soccer, but I really just loved the sport and being able to run. So it's incredible where it's brought me now.
Can you explain what it means to be an athlete for a D1 school? Just in case there's anybody listening and they're not up on their college athletics, because I want to make sure the listeners understand how incredible it is that you were having these people reach out to you and you got this opportunity when it was something that you were still doing for fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It is a big deal. Like if you see it that way, obviously it's all perspective, but it takes a lot to be able to get there, a lot of dedication for people. Sometimes they plan from when they're really young, from when they're in elementary school and middle school, high school, whatever. So for that to be an opportunity for me when I didn't expect it, plan on it, know that it was an opportunity was really incredible. And once I realized how big of a deal it was to other people, it really made me see my potential for one of the first times where it's like, okay, if this opportunity is available for me, that means that I have something that I'm not fully aware of yet. Yeah, it does take a lot of work. And I realized that when I was there, but it's a great accomplishment for so many of the athletes that are in the NCAA or who are D1. But it comes with positives and negatives, or pros and cons.
Okay, I want to get into those pros and cons. I never played any sports until I guess I was an adult, and then now I work out. As you said, I do the pull-ups.
Yeah.
But my little brother was a student athlete, and he had been playing soccer his whole life, and his goal was always to get a scholarship and go to school, so he was able to do that. It's so interesting to hear that you weren't sure of your potential until you started to get the outreach from the schools.
Mm-hmm.
So once you went to school and you were this athlete who had a scholarship, did you feel like you had some type of imposter syndrome, or did you feel like you fit right in and you were where you were supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness, the first year, it was such a blur in the sense that I don't know what I expected to happen. I knew my potential much more at that point. I almost felt like I had something to prove, but at the same time, I was not expecting to accomplish as much as I did. My first year, I ended up being third in the ACC as a freshman, which was a huge accomplishment. Me and my DMR relay team at the time, we were all American, made it to nationals for our relay. I ran 2:06, which is like a pretty fast time for my age. It was just incredible. When I think about it now, is such an incredible experience. And it really helped me to grow from that underdog place. I really did like being there though, in that underdog place, being like, wow, seeing those steps in front of me and starting to take them as they came up, because I didn't realize that they were there before. Ever since then, I feel like it's been a long journey, but definitely a great journey to seeing my potential and realizing how great I can be in the future.
Oh, yeah. It's so incredible. You've achieved so much already. I love that you had this underdog mindset because it's something that I can certainly relate to. I think that a lot of people who listen to this show have felt like an underdog at different points of their life.
Mhm.
What fueled this underdog mindset for you?
Oh my goodness. I guess that unknowing part of myself, or the part of myself that honestly didn't believe in myself, where it's like other people are telling you that you can be great or that you have this potential. And I guess that imposter syndrome fueled it. Maybe it wasn't such a good thing. It was maybe a bit of a security blanket, being like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to see how great I can be. I'm going to stay in this underdog role. That's why it was so comfortable, because when you realize what you can do, there's so much more that comes along with it that now I'm, more mature and I can take on, and I'm excited to take on. But you realize how much work goes into what you're doing. And yeah, I feel like that fear of success and fear of failure was what was fueling like that underdog place. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's a bad place to be, but it's also, it's that place where you can grow and, achieve more from.
Oh, yeah. The fear of success is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about enough, right? Because I think we all dream big, but then what happens when you actually achieve that dream? It's like you're a different version of you, and maybe that's really scary to step into.
Yeah.
Do you still think that you have that underdog mindset now?
Now I don't. I guess in ways it'll show up like when I'm trying something new, like tennis, for example. Yeah, I got that underdog mindset, but I feel like in a lot of ways it has melted away in a lot of areas in my life, in almost all areas of my life, because I don't see any end goals anymore. I just see a journey. So wherever I'm at is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not like, oh, I'm the underdog because I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet or where I can be. I'm just thinking, oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be. With that mindset change, I really don't feel it as much. And I think it's taken a lot of pressure off of me, and it's allowed me to move forward into success and to not be scared of what it takes. Because even if I fall and have to get back up, I know that I can. And then I'll be right where I'm supposed to be, wherever that is.
All the wisdom that you just shared goes perfectly into my next question for you, because you did have a big change when it came to your athletic career, in that you decided to quit your D1 team. So how did you decide to leave your D1 team?
Okay, so after my first year, because I didn't really see my potential, and I think my talent ended up carrying me, the results, like I said, were really incredible and really unexpected for not only me, but I think my teammates, coaches, the school. What happened was I felt a lot of pressure from that success, from that unexpected success. And I feel that, a lot of people began to see even more in me and expect more from me that I honestly wasn't prepared for. And for a long time, I felt like I was throwing the pity party because I had come from that place of, trying hard, but like, since I'm the underdog, it doesn't really matter. That's where that fear of success comes in, where I'm like, oh my goodness, to maintain this, I have to work harder and it comes with more responsibility. And I wasn't ready for that. And I was also less self-aware and less mature. So it had a negative effect on my mental health and well-being because I wasn't able to deal with it in the right ways at that time. I was losing sleep. I just felt like I wanted to be like a normal college student. I felt like I wanted to go out all the time and just live what I thought to be the regular college experience and enjoy my time. But what does the uncle in Spider-Man say?
Oh, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes. And I was feeling that, and it was really breaking me down, but I also didn't know how to express to other people that this is not what I'm prepared for yet. And I think a lot of the time people would say, oh, to student athletes, you're ungrateful because you have this opportunity and you don't want to take it or whatever, or you're not ready for it. But it really truly is up to us individually to recognize if it's too much and to take a step back and to not allow people to pressure us into continuing and having that negative effect on our, mental and physical well-being, even if they don't realize that it is. So I was happy that over time I was able to recognize that. And that's why I ended up stepping away.
Wow. I can relate in my own way to that. I had a career that I did well in for 10 years, knew where it was going to go, had all the signs that I was doing well there, but I just knew I didn't want to be there. But it took me 10 years to decide that I was going to walk away from it. So I really commend you within your first year or two of being an athlete that you were able to identify that for yourself and you were able to walk away. Did you observe with other people that you competed with or who were on your team that they felt the same pressure? Or did you feel like you were going through this on your own?
I think right now, this is a huge thing in the NCAA, in the world of sports. I feel like it gets so targeted to the NCAA, but this is just a general thing and it's whether or not people are talking about it. But of course, I've seen it my whole life and I definitely saw it more when I was there because you're around a bunch of people in similar situations. But what I did realize after I left is it comes back to you. And it comes back to whether or not you set your own boundaries. And, if you can understand what it is and what it isn't that you can tolerate and what you want from your sport or whatever situation or job, it's up to you to recognize when it's time for you to say no or take a step back, especially before it gets to a bad place where you maybe have to quit or you want to leave or all those things, to recognize before and then make that transition easier. Because I think for a lot of people, it can be really traumatizing and really embarrassing and feels terrible, but it doesn't need to if you can learn to handle it the right ways. But at the time, I didn't know how to. And I think a lot of people don't, especially being in college age and at any point in life.
Yeah, especially growing up, we're told that there's this track on you do high school, then you go to university or college, and then you get successful there, then you go on and get your job. And as an athlete, there's the added pressure of you do school and then you do your sport and you excel in both, and then you compete at the Olympics, and then whatever happens after the Olympics. It's a lot of pressure. And I don't think that it's modeled for a lot of people how you make big decisions that might take you off track or off the journey that you saw for yourself. So are you willing to share when you were making the decision to leave school, what were some of the reasons that made you think, okay, it's a good idea to leave this team? And then what were some of your fears about leaving the team?
Oh, great question. So I'll start with the fears and then I'll go into the good stuff. My fears of leaving the team was losing my identity. I was like, gosh, no one's going to care about me if I'm not a D1 athlete. Because I realize how, we talked about this at the start, how it is a big accomplishment and a big deal. So I was like, oh my gosh, who am I if I'm not this? I had like this identity crisis. And then also I had this sense of guilt for all the other athletes who had wanted to go that didn't get the opportunity or worked super hard, but it didn't work out. And I'm here wanting to leave on a full scholarship, like the whole deal. And I can't do this. And I felt this sense of guilt, like, oh my gosh, you're so undeserving, so unlucky, this negative self-talk that I had, the fears of not being around my friends and the really great aspects of being there. I was scared to leave those people, but the positive, there was so much negative at that point where it didn't feel like there was anything positive for a lot of a time because I was constantly thinking, I'm going to be nothing after this. I'm going to be nothing. I'm not like that anymore at all. But at the time I guess the thought that got me out of it was I hit such a rock bottom where I really just felt like there's no way I can live like this. I don't like my sport. I'm not enjoying the majority of my life, and you should definitely be enjoying more of your life than you're not. I was crying and sad all the time, and I don't want to live like this. And there was this light at the end of the tunnel that was like, there's so much more to it. This 1% out of all the 99% of negativity that was just saying, give it a shot. If you leave and it doesn't work out, well, you're just going to be maybe as miserable as you are now, but there's this little chance that it gets so much better, and it got so much better.
Oh my gosh, I'm so moved by hearing you say that because so many of the things that you're saying, it took me so long to figure that out. And you are so young and you were able to take this risk and develop this wisdom. So honestly, kudos to you. Truly so moved and so inspired by you. And
Thank
as you were listing the fears, you were talking about things like losing your identity or guilt and then not being sure what's going to happen to you after. I think about major decisions that I've made. So around jobs or career or friendship or relationships, those things were the same fears in those big decisions. And I think for anybody who's listening that has had a big decision, basically all of the fears are rooted in those same things. After you've gotten to the other side of that, did any of those fears actually come true and materialize?
Ooh. Yeah, honestly, for a bit, like,
Okay, that's good. That's normal. That's normal.
yeah, they definitely did. I mean, the friendships that I had, it's like, you know, with a lot of them, I'm not as close with now. Still great people, love them, but at the time, I remember being like, oh my gosh, these are such important people in my life. How am I going to meet new people? And so for a bit, it was nerve wracking, getting the FOMO for a bit. The first year, I was like, I feel like I should still be there, part of me. So that stuff definitely came to life and has subsided now. Like you realize that everything is okay and you meet new people and can still stay in touch. I was doing content creation while I was in school, being a runner. And when I left, I didn't really know what to make content about. I didn't really want to share my story too much. I was nervous about if people would like my content if I wasn't a D1 athlete. So that materialized, but almost because of my own anxieties, where I was like, no one cares. No one was really saying that, but I was feeling it. So I would say that came to life in some way. And I had to find a way to get through that, by doing like self work and having a therapist and finding my worth on my own. But honestly, all those things came to life. Like for a bit, I took some time off. So I was not as fit as I was used to being. And I struggled with that for a little bit. But by doing the self work and giving myself time to really almost like grieve and mourn my past identity and self and grow into who I am now, it's been so incredible. And I wouldn't change any of that for anything.
You brought up such a good point in terms of how you need to grieve, you need that time to mourn, because even though the big decision and the big change is good for you, you're still saying goodbye to a world that you've known and a world that you had been working for since you were a teenager. I know that track, as you said before, was a major part of your identity. And then you were so used to being part of a team, and now you're back in Canada and you're training privately. How do you reconcile with this change in your identity and no longer being part of this big team?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've just gotten to know myself so much better. This year I'm taking a year off of competing. I still train, but yeah, definitely it's not with a big team right now. And I get to listen to my thoughts and I'm out of this competitive nature almost. So even if when I go back to compete, it's going to be against myself, not other people, not in other conferences, on my team, any of these things. And it's just allowed me to really spend so much more time with myself that I didn't know I was missing out on. Love a team setting, love being around people. But I think everybody at some point in their lives needs a little bit of time alone. And even if it's in the same area of what you're doing with other people, it's good to be like, well, how do I navigate things when I'm not following someone else's lead or I don't have the outside inspiration? Am I internally driven? All those things. And it's helped me to exercise that so much. And I know it's going to be so beneficial when I am training with other people again and when I am competing with others and those kinds of things.
It sounds like it was a big mental health growth opportunity for you.
100%.
Was there a moment in your private training when you realized I'm on the right track? I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So last year, I was still training with a group last year, but I wasn't on the school team or anything like that. So every day I would have to get up because I'm not competing for anyone else. So it was less pressure, but also less motivation in a way, because I'm like, oh, it's just for me. And when you have that, oh, it's just for me thought, it's a lot of, well, I don't really have to go to practice, like no one's paying for my education, I don't really have to be there. It's all up to me. And there were just days where I did not want to get out of bed to go run however many kilometers. I would, at the start, I had to force myself. And then it became habit to get up and do it for myself because no one was telling me to. And I mean, I don't know what day it started to become just a normalcy and it was just a part of my routine, but it just started to feel so great. And every time I would finish the workout and be done with weight training or whatever, I would just be so proud of myself. I don't know when that happened, but the best thing ever.
It sounds like it was so freeing because before there was so much pressure around making sure your fitness was at a certain level. There was so much pressure in terms of your running and you had to be accountable to all of this pressure. And now you just get to be accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
Did it change your relationship with running and how you feel when you're running now?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. When I'm running now, it just feels so free, so freeing. And I think I just changed so much as a person, not even just an athlete, as a person in general, where, I realize we're all good as we are. People say it all the time, but when you really know it yourself, it changes everything. So if I'm not to achieve this huge, big thing that I set out for myself or this and or that other people set out for me, it's fine. I'm good. Now when I run and I'm working towards bigger goals, I'm taking those little steps and I'm just enjoying them because I know it can work out. And if I want it to work out, it will. But if I decided I didn't want to, or if it didn't happen for whatever reason, it's fine. Because I was enjoying the journey and for all that it was worth other than the big end goal.
Oh my gosh. I'm just looking at you from across the street and I'm like, I wish that I knew some of these things when I was your age because yes, I got on the track of being chronically busy, feeling like I needed to achieve to have a sense of self-worth. So seeing you now and seeing that you're able to share this message, I'm like, yes, this is going to be so helpful to so many people. So honestly, congrats to you.
Thank you so much. Like, I really am. Honestly, that's so sweet that you say that. And for a long time, I was just, oh, no. Like, I feel like we all do that. I am so proud of that. I am so proud of that and thankful that when other people can recognize it and why I can see it in other people and myself. So same to you, and thank you.
Thank you. And I want to ask you about your content that you are creating on social media. I was just sitting there for hours just scrolling through your Instagram and TikTok. And I'm like, wow, she really gets it. She's really putting a positive message into the world. Can you tell me about what you make on social media and really what drew you to be making things that build confidence for people?
Yeah. So I do a little mix of everything. I like to have my hand in different jars because I think it's so fun. I only used to make track specific content. And then it put a lot of pressure on my sport. So now I make content of trying new things. Like I started playing tennis and I make content around that and showing people that it can be scary to try something new, but you can always get better. I make motivational content for not only athletes, but content creators because it can be scary to try that. But through my personal experience, I realized that you can get over those bumps in the road. And there are ways to do that can help you and not be stressful and because it feels like it can be. And then I do some beauty and lifestyle content every once in a while. I like Lego content sometimes, just a little bit of everything. And whatever, I feel like I chase the enjoyment. I chase the joy. I heard Donald Glover say this one time, and he's also Childish Gambino for anybody that doesn't know. He's an actor. He makes music. He does a little bit of everything. And he said he chases the joy, and I really resonated with that. And whatever he's feeling passionate about at different points in his life, he goes for those things and he's successful in them because he doesn't give up till he feels like he wants to be successful in something else.
Oh, I love that. And I can totally see that you're having so much fun with everything that you're making. Yeah. Do you have specific goals when it comes to social media? I'm trying to see, is it similar to track where you had this goal of getting a scholarship and you're aspiring to be an Olympian? Do you have a goal like that for social media, or is it something you approach differently?
It's definitely something I approach differently. I really don't have a goal for it. As long as I'm inspiring people and putting out quality content that I also like and that I feel like other people like. I don't feel like you were asking this anyways, but like in terms of following and stuff, because I know some people will be like, I want 10 million followers. And it's like, is that really, I mean, that could be a good goal, but what's the root behind it? Like, because of how many people you want to inspire? Is it because you're so aware of this opportunity you have? All those kinds of things. But for me, I see it just, as a way to inspire other people to get after what it is that they want in life. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm really content with that, because I guess I'm not scared to go into different fields if I needed to. If one day social media didn't exist, I'm like, oh, I'll do something else.
I think especially after you have found success in track and then found success on social media, why can't you find success doing something else? It all transfers into something else. Definitely. And then I think you also hit it on the head where there's so much on social media about the vanity and the numbers and the engagement and setting goals. And really it's to what end? Why do you need all of that?
Right. And I know so many people now, and I know that they'll get out of it. So I guess for right now, when I see people like that, it's sad to see. But I feel like everybody gets to a point where they realize, and when they're in that mindset, this isn't it. This isn't it. Just because I have 1 million followers or 10 million or 5 million, this isn't all that there is to life. And then that's when community becomes so important, and self-love and enjoying the little things in life, and not all these extravagant things that you think will bring you happiness. And I think everyone gets to those points and realizes those things about themselves and about life.
Yeah, I can relate. I had like a private Instagram account, and that was it before I was on Survivor, and then did the show and all of a sudden get more followers. And I'm just like, oh, I guess I need to do something with this. And I went through some time where I had different people representing me, and they were like, you should do this, or you should do this, you should do this. And then I ended up just not doing any of it. And now I just post whatever I want, whenever I want. Yeah. When you were starting to get more opportunities out of social media, I'm so curious, was there one piece of really good advice you got and then one piece of bad advice that you got?
The really good advice that I've gotten is, I see this so much too, and I love it, is to just start. Just start. Everyone thinks it needs to be perfect. Really and truly just start and work up from there. And it's always so fun to look back at old videos and be like, yeah, that was not great, but it led me to where I am now, So there's always room for improvement. And we shouldn't be scared to start. The worst piece of advice. This is like a quote from, I quote so many other people from the movie Bleed for this. It's about this fighter, and he says that the worst piece of advice that he's ever gotten is that it's not that simple. And the interviewer was like, what do you mean by that? It's like, people say that it's not that simple. It's not that simple to be great, to get the work done. But really and truly, if you take it step by step, something that seems like it's a whole mountain, you can break it down into little pieces and make it easier for yourself. And that's how things become so simple. If you want them to be, you don't look at them as this big thing. So I guess that was his worst piece of advice, but I just said the quote. But I think when people are like, oh, you can't do that, that's too hard, that's too difficult, that's the worst advice that people can give to other people. And so we close our ears to that.
Where you do well is that there is a level of simplicity in that you're talking authentically about your experiences, and you bring whatever your specific point of view is to whatever you're sharing. There is a specific post that I saw. I'm like, I'm curious about this one. You had talked about the fear of being perceived. And I think that that's something that a lot of people face, especially when it comes to social media. Yeah. And in your post, you talked specifically about how athletes deal with the fear of being perceived. So how does this fear manifest for athletes specifically?
I feel like you think you've got it all together. You've done all the training, and then you go to your competition, for me, a meet. You're like, there's so many people. What are they thinking? It's just like, I was speaking on it to athletes, but we all know everyone gets that way. It's funny. That fear is something that I still deal with, and because I still make content on it and I'm working through, but I'm not as scared to, because I had this personal humbling experience last year when I went to a meet in Boston. And what happened was my aunt and uncle, they're driving me to the meet. I'm getting all nervous, jittery, and there's all this traffic. And in my head, I'm just like, they're all going to the meet because this is such a big thing. They're all going to the meet and they're all going to be watching and they're going to see us all running and they're going to see me running. And what if I mess up and blah, 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 blah. And as we're getting off the exit ramp to go to the meet, the traffic just keeps going. And I just laughed to myself, like, how silly of me to think they're all going to this big meet to watch me fail. I competed so well that day. And ever since then, I just think of the way that the traffic kept going and how we all think that we're being perceived when in reality, we all know that we're thinking of ourselves. It was humbling, but so needed and so great.
I'm going to remember that story now because I think that makes it so clear where nobody is paying that much attention to you. No. We're all just so focused on ourselves. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Like, oh my goodness. I'm like looking at them in the car over like, are you going? They're like, who are you? No, I'm just kidding. But it's funny.
I remember telling a friend a while ago, they were having issues at their job. They were so frustrated by all their other coworkers. And I'm like, do you want to know the best advice I heard? They're like, what? I'm like, nobody cares. I'm like, nobody cares. Nothing is actually the end of the world. The stakes are never that high unless it's truly life or death. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Best advice too. Yeah.
I feel like you are putting this into action in terms of how you are sharing your tennis journey on your social media, because I think it's so endearing and so cool to see that you were a D1 top track athlete and then now total beginner in tennis and sharing that. What has that journey been like?
So fun, so incredible, and also has really taught me so much more about myself in a lot of ways. Things that I already knew, but got really amplified. Like how when I'm trying something new or when things aren't perfect or when I'm not being my best or when I can't be my best because I'm learning like a whole new sport, I was getting really mean to myself at the start. Mm-hmm. Like I would miss the ball, had no hand-eye coordination in the first place. And I'm like, oh, and not to anyone else, not to my coach, but to myself, like, oh, stupid. What? You know, I would go into the courts so positive, leave so positive. But while I was practicing, it's like all that stuff is coming up. And I brought it to my therapist. I was like, I didn't like I've become so nice to myself. But when I'm playing the sport, when I'm trying something new, I realize I'm still really mean to myself. Such a big thing that it taught me and has allowed me to like work on and exercise over the last, 6 months that I've been playing. So awesome. And then it's been on like I want to say like a lighter note, not that that was necessarily a bad thing because it was good to recognize, but one of the best things and the lighter thing that I've gotten from it is the sense of accomplishment every time that I get better. Mm-hmm. Now when I go to the courts, you know, I'm much more chill and lax and enjoying it a lot more. I'm so proud of how I could actually hit the ball and like have a rally going and see where all those the beginner steps ended up paying off. And it'll continue to pay off for as long as I continue keeping up with it. And I mean, I have no real goal with it. I just wanted to be able to play. So when I play with like my kids in the future, I'm like, oh, I started from nothing. Like I couldn't even hit the ball.
It sounds like it's probably so light and so freeing that you can play the sport. You don't have the pressure to compete. You don't have the pressure to be better. It's just an achievement to get better than the last time. And then even if you don't get better than the last time, that doesn't matter either.
No, it really doesn't.
One post that I saw that you made that I really got a kick out of, you were sharing all of the negative comments that people were leaving you about your tennis videos. And I honestly, like, it made me laugh. And I thought, oh, this is basically you telling the fear of being perceived to get out of here. Because often when people are afraid to post something online, their biggest fear is having people say something negative about you and people recognize that you're not good enough. But then with you, you're like, okay, I'm going to take that and then now laugh at it. And I'm just like, oh, now there's no more fear of being perceived or you've debunked it. Is that what you were trying to do with that post?
Yeah, literally. And also just, to show people, hey, it's fine. But a lot of it is that when you bring things to light, when you share your story, it doesn't eat you up so much. It's just like, this is a thing and this is a fine thing. It's fine. Not everyone's going to like you or like what you do or like how you do things, but you should just still live your life the way that you're living it and still keep doing things and trying for things. And a lot of times, people do want to bring others down, but there's so much more good in this life than bad and negative. It is nice to laugh things off sometimes. Like at the start, I would be like, oh, well, that kind of sucks. But what's that going to do? Make me want to quit? And then I would only be as good or as bad, like I've said, as the comments are saying. If I decide to give up and I never got better from there, then I would have been as bad as they were saying it was. I think it's just like a really nice way to take the power back into your own hands and to move forward with it.
Yes, I love that. I love that because it really takes the power away from the other people and gives it to yourself, as you said. So
definitely
keep going, keep playing tennis, keep doing it. I'm loving following along and seeing you just get better and better. Or not. And that's fine if you don't either.
Yeah. And would you ever try? I know you're
playing tennis?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So one of my friends and I, before the pandemic, we would go to the park and we would just try to hit the ball back and forth to each other. And I'd find I'd have the hand-eye to get the ball to hit the racket, but I just did not have the technique to actually control where the ball was going. So then every time we played, the ball would end up in the other court, whatever. Like we were so bad, but we were like, okay, we'll go and do it again another day. Cause we're like, oh, but we're just having fun.
Yeah.
I would do it. I've never posted it online, but maybe one day.
Yeah, and if you ever wanted to hit with me, like run the same place, like let me know.
Okay, that's good because since you run track, you'll be able to run for the ball when I hit it into the stratosphere, not even close to where it's supposed to go.
When I first started, it was all over the place. Even sometimes now, if I miss it, I completely understand.
Yeah, I'm just like whatever, as long as it's hit, that's fine. And if it's not, that's also fine. Not the end of the world.
That's true.
Aleeya, have you thought about what comes next for you? Or do you have plans or do you have aspirations for what you want to do next?
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I take things more on the day by day, but I do have larger goals that I set out for and then I work on the day by day. So yeah, with my track career as a professional athlete, I would like to get as far as possible. And I know I can get very far. And I don't speak on it too much because I found that when I would speak to years down the line, I would be putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself and not focusing on those day-to-day tasks that need to be done to get there. Because it can feel so daunting if you're like, the Olympics, but all you have to do today is like your elliptical or your strengthening. So I really take it day by day and I know that it will get me to where I need to be. The other things are spending time with my friends and family. I've gotten a lot better at that rather than being so anxious and like, oh, I just have to train. I just have to do this. I don't have time for others. So making time for others and enjoying that time and really indulging in it. And then down the line, I feel like I like to bring this up, especially, with my friends and stuff. But in the future, I really can't wait to be a mom. That's like so, I know, like random.
But not random at all. That's amazing.
Yeah. Like one day my mom is a really great mom and I already feel like I have so much purpose and meaning in my life, but I see from other moms and my own how much more meaning that it gives you, even if you don't realize that it will. Like, I have no idea what that's going to feel like, but I know it's going to be really great. And I just can't wait to raise somebody in the same ways that helped me and to just teach them. You see so many kids nowadays that are, I don't know, nervous to try things, or their parents will beat them up over the little things and force them to do things that, like, their sports maybe that they don't enjoy or like. But I know I'll just give them a very safe and fun environment to try whatever they want and like to go as far as they can go.
Oh, every time I hear you talk, I'm just so warm and fuzzy inside because I feel like you just have so much good wisdom and so much good decision making, and you understand so much about yourself and how you fit into the world at such a young age. So honestly, I'm like, oh, those little kids, whenever they come, they're going to be so lucky that they have you there to usher them into the world. since I love you and your advice so much, maybe we can leave the listeners with a last piece of advice. So thinking back to like an older version of me or an older version of you who is in a situation where they know that it is just no longer working for them and they want to make a change, but they are scared. What is your advice to them?
I know I wouldn't have taken this advice before, but now this is what I do. I give myself a hug. I take some time. If I needed like a whole day to just feel something, I don't do that often, but to really pinpoint what I'm feeling, take a day, just give yourself love, a hug, be kind to yourself, and tell yourself it's okay to make that tough decision. And when you do it, be there with yourself, stick with yourself and say, I'm going to help you get through this. I always try to speak from like the older version of myself to like the younger versions of myself. Like, it's okay, guys. I got you. And we're going to be okay. And yeah, just be very kind to yourself and know that you'll be leading yourself to the best path for you, if that's coming from a good place, of course.
I love it. I wish that I heard that when I was 22, but at least now in my mid-30s, I can hear it and I can share it with all the listeners. So thank you so much, Aleeya, for being on the show today.
Thanks. Thank you.
If people want to follow you and see all of your inspirational content, where can they do that?
So my Instagram is at Aleeya Hutchins, ALeeyaHutchins. And then my TikTok is Leah Hutchins, LeaHutchins. Those are the two platforms I post on the most. Maybe I'll get into the YouTube a little bit more, but for now, that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much, Aleeya. You are a star. I am sure we're going to see you again, whether it's at the Olympics, at Wimbledon, or on social media. Honestly, thank you so much for chatting today. And I'm going to put it out there. Maybe one day people will see us hitting a tennis ball back and forth.
I would love that.
I'm scared, but I would love to do it. Is she not a rising star? I am so happy I had the chance to chat with Aleeya today, and I am so excited to see what she does next because I feel like we're going to see her and hear her name again in the future. Now, I love to end each episode by answering a question. So the question this week I got from somebody online is, where do you buy your clothes? So thank you. I love fashion. I love style. Never considered myself a fashionista until I ended up on reality TV, but it turns out people enjoy seeing what I wear. So thank you so much for this. I buy my clothes at a few different places. If you're following me on social media, you know that right now I am challenging myself to only buy 15 fashion-related things this year. So I am trying to have a more curated closet of only things that I am totally obsessed with. In terms of where I've been buying my clothes the last few years, number one, I love to buy from Canadian brands when I can. I love places like Birds of North America or Eliza Faulkner. And I also love going to just boutiques in Toronto and going to stores that are on the main streets in Toronto because I find I can always find something really unique and something that I can keep in my wardrobe and love for a long time. I love thrift shopping and I love vintage shopping. I grew up shopping secondhand. For me, it's always a fun treasure hunt going into a vintage store and then finding something, and often I'll take it to get it tailored to make sure that it fits me perfectly and that I can wear it for many years to come. A lot of the clothes that I have, I've actually been wearing them for years and years. And then if I go to the mall and need to buy some basics, I'll usually buy basic items from places like Uniqlo or Aritzia. And if I'm buying jeans, over the last few years, all of my jeans have been from Abercrombie because they have a big petite selection. And I am but a 5-foot girl, so that saves me a lot of money when it comes to tailoring. But in terms of my style, I just love to try to support local businesses when I can. I love to try to rewear something or fix something or get something tailored so that I could use a secondhand or thrifted or vintage garment. And really, a major focus for me over the last while has been only buying things that I really love and trying to acknowledge the trends, but really maintain a closet of things that I love regardless of what is in style in that current season, and having fewer items that are more fitted to me and more quality. Thank you for being interested in my outfits and in my fashion. I am working on booking an episode where I bring someone in and we talk more about personal style. So if you have questions about personal style, let me know because I can save them for a future episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Instagram and on YouTube at Happy to See Me Pod. If you know somebody who is considering a big life change, send them this episode so they can get Aleeya's wisdom as well. I am so grateful you spent this time with me this week, and I will be happy to see you next Monday.